Sorry, just a reminder to everybody to use their microphone when they're speaking, because it is recorded on YouTube and live on YouTube as well. Welcome to today's meeting of External Overview and Scrutiny, Wednesday the 12th of February 2025. We're not expecting any fire alarms. Please turn off your mobile phones. And we're quite excited today because it's an art special and we've got some public speakers as well, which is really welcomed. So have we got any apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, we've got apologies from Councillor Shepherd and Councillor Hodson is substituting. We've got apologies from Councillor Smith and Councillor Wheatley is substituting.
Brilliant, thank you. And if we quickly look at the minutes, I'm just going to take them en bloc. Councillor Johns. Sorry. Good to see you. So the minutes of Wednesday the 8th of January 2025. I won't do them page by page.
Chair?
Yeah.
I would like to bring up page 4. During the review, members noted the vandalism in Victoria Park, etc. And I'd like to ask what progress on CCTV upgrade there has been and when it was initiated, because during the joint safety and community joint meeting, it's actually noted in the minutes that discussions were taking place re-upgrading the CCTV, but would be subject to costings and may be subject to funding. So I really do need to know what's the current update and when these initiation processes were first instigated.
I think that's on our action list, if we can take that.
Well, I might not be here for the action list, that's the problem.
Okay. Have you got an update, Stacey?
Yeah, the Community Safety and Public Health Manager reviewed the systems. They can all be upgraded within our current maintenance budget, and that's what he's doing currently.
And when did this first start, this discussion to upgrade?
I don't know the date that I can find out, but I don't know the date.
I would very much like to know the date, thank you. So please can you, or whoever is in authority for this, give me that information. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other points from the minutes to raise? No, have I got a proposer for the minutes?
I'll second.
Councillor Thomas and Councillor Brenton seconding. All in favour? And against? And abstentions? 2 abstentions. Okay, thank you. And now we come to public participation. And I'm pleased to say we've got a couple of people who have come to speak. Have we got Pascal here? Would you like to come down? Thank you. And I think we've got a short presentation as well. Oh, don't worry too much.
Hello, my name's Pascal. My name's Pascal Strayton and I'm from an outdoor arts organisation based in Bideford called Red Herring Productions. And outdoor arts is a label that was basically created by the Arts Council to describe activity, performance that happens out on the street and in landscape settings. And we make work that is intended to be made and presented outside, that happens in public spaces and that reaches people that don't normally go to the theatre or to galleries. These environments are often very fluid, so our work is about improvisation, really, about encouraging people to come to us, to join with us, and it's about creating trust, curiosity and fun. The company's run by 2 women, myself and my colleague called Kim Tilbrook, and together we have 55 years of shared experience as performers, directors, producers and consultants in this area. we have made 2 iterations of a small outdoor arts festival called Stepping Out, with events in Bideford, on Northern Boroughs and in Westwood Ho, and we've reached about 5,000 people. Here's some example of some work that we've done on the street. The top 2 are shows that we've brought in, kind of thing that you'd find in Covent Garden, more experimental stuff. We've done a silent disco, which was supported by the Burton during lockdown, and we now tour that nationally. The Egg Shack was commissioned by Landmark Theatres and was an event that had community engagement at its heart, and we involved 160 people in the making of this piece of work as part of our research during workshops and as part of our community cast. I don't know if we can have the next slide. We also present work out on the street. We create playful interactive characters. We take people out on creative walks. The project on the bottom left is called The Whistlers, which was a European commission that happened in France and Belgium and here in the UK. And the next slide, please. We create work with schools. So the top 2 are projects that were made with East the Water School and Heartland Primary School, and Wolseley as well. And in these projects, the children are facilitated to make all the key decisions in the making of the work, where it happens, the stories that are told, and these have been about celebrating landscapes. The bottom right-hand corner is a picture of Alison Campbell, who is part of our community cast. On the left is a company that performed as part of the festival. All our work is participative. It's about encouraging people to join us and have fun and be playful, because we think play is really important. It keeps us optimistic, flexible, it helps us to connect to each other, and we think it's good for adults. So everyone's included in that. We're not core funded, so all our work happens on a project by project basis. We work with other companies. So the next slide, please, the last one. This is just an example of some of the things that we've done with other companies. Kim Tilbrook was key in the creation of a very vibrant festival that happens in the Wye Valley, the Wye Valley River Festival, which happens across the length of the river and across both countries, England and Wales. I, in the bottom right, so the Wye River Valley Festival is represented in the top left. The bottom right was a key project that happened as part of Buda, which was in Norway, which was the European Capital of Culture, and this was a massive spectacular. I was part of the creative team to make that happen. So we've got experience and we've got ambition. So in 2028, we want to create a large-scale project that will, which celebrates Bideford as its canvas, which will reference, we think at this point, will reference the story of the famous Bideford witch trials, but tries to find optimism in our shared, what we have in common rather than what divides us. Some of you may have heard of a show that featured on television that happened in 2011 that was called The Passion, that happened in Port Talbot. It was the story of the Passion of Jesus was played across the town and to great celebrity. Martin Sheen was in it. It was very popular. That project was created by WorldWorks, who are an outdoor theatre company based in Cornwall. And they're very keen to support our work going forward. They need to collaborate. They've been asked to by the Arts Council. So we've got a lot of ambitions, and to get there, we need to do a lot of work. We need to work more consistently with our local communities to create through events and workshops, and we're looking for partners to help make this ambitious piece of work happen. And I think there's a last slide, which just bullet points some of the things that we want to do. Want to continue to have events and to run workshops and engagement activity in order to make a big project like that happen.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for coming.
Shall I turn that off?
And secondly, we've got Grace Rogers. Would you like to come?
Here we go.
So thank you for inviting me to speak. I've completed a MA in Arts and Place at Dartington in 2021, and Dartington has an ethos of meeting art, science and ecology, which is what drew me there. I currently work as a freelance curator. I curate at the Plough Art Centre, and I also teach filmmaking to students at University of Plymouth. So a lot of my work is residency based, so it's about being in a place and looking really at the networks and the relationships between all who live there. So my focus is really on nature connection, and really, I suppose, celebrating the joy and wonder of the network of relationships of humans, non-humans, all creatures that live in a place. So one example, which I was going to show you a short piece of film about, was a residency I did at Ben Nevis, where I spent time with microscopic cameras, like looking at the tiny life. It was an interesting place because people come there to hike and climb the mountain. So often the focus is on the top rather than looking at the smaller aspects of what makes up the mountain. So I spent time filming the tiny life, and I filmed some moss flowers, and I found a tardigrade and some other really interesting things. I was living off-grid for the duration of the residency in a big canvas bell tent. So I turned that into a cinema and projected the footage up into the tent. So it was really wonderful because everyone who was visiting and staying the night before, preparing to climb the mountain, was fascinated with what was going on in the tent and looking at this tiny life. So really, I love that aspect of working in a place from an arts point of view, engaging people and having conversations really about the work and the process. So this year, my focus is, I've grown up in Bideford. I went to St Margaret's School, which is very close to the Pebble Ridge. So partly as a passion project, and partly I'm going to be applying for Arts Council funding to run some workshops at the Northern Boroughs Centre. I've been down to speak to Rose, the head ranger there. And yeah, just really to celebrate the whole community that live along the Pebble Ridge.
Brilliant, thank you. Thank you for coming to speak to us.
Okay.
And we look forward to seeing more. Annie?
Yeah, can I just ask both Pascal and Grace, is there something you want from us, apart from obviously general support? Is there anything specific that you need from us, either in terms of some kind of, I don't know, match funding or giving you some kind of CV to encourage you to get better grant funding?
That would be amazing. Yeah, a letter of support for...
So we really need you to tell us what you're asking
Well,
for.
I only found out about this in the last couple of weeks, and I don't know a great deal about the project, so I don't feel very prepared. Maybe Pascal would like to speak.
At the moment, we're creating a 3-year plan, and so we're not quite at the stage of asking for funds right at this moment, but yes, we would...
That would be in the future.
We're also looking for space. That's always a thing that's really difficult for artists in general, and I'm sure you might be interested in that.
Yes.
It's difficult, but yeah, we are.
Right. And can I ask, are either of you charities, or is it just a one and a two-man band sort of situation? All right. So you would be eligible for charitable funding?
Yes. Well,
right.
Some, not all.
Because you do know that Torridge has a community grants funding where all councillors have an allocation of public money that they can steer to particular organisations.
I didn't know that there was an official body. I knew that councillors have their own...
Well, it's not ours, it's yours.
Yes,
But so when the time comes, you know, certainly apply for that as well, I would suggest.
Great. Yes, I'm not a charity, but maybe.
And I think part of this meeting will help you link up with other arts organisations, and we've also got Claire Gulliver, our Cultural Development Officer as well, who's helping to coordinate arts across Torridge, and we're going to hear from her in a minute actually. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much.
Sorry, we couldn't ask too many questions because you're not officially on the agenda as listed, so we're not able to debate with the public participation. Thank you. Declaration of interest. Reminder that members of interest should refer to the agenda item and describe the nature of their interest when the item is considered. So I'll declare an interest as being on the board of Active Torridge, and when it comes to that agenda item, I will pass over the chair to the Vice Chair. And also declare an interest. I'm very passionate about arts. I'm lead member for culture at Torridge and regularly attend the Plough Arts Centre. Agreement of agenda items part 1 and 2. There's no part 2. Urgent matters brought forward with permission of the chair. Nothing's been raised with me. No. So on to the main agenda item, number 7, Arts in Torridge. And I think we're going to kick off with Claire Gulliver as our Cultural Development Officer, who's going to give us an introduction. Thank you.
So hello everyone, I'm Claire Gulliver. Thank you for inviting me to speak to you today. I'm a part-time role as Cultural Development Officer. It's a role in the Economic Development team, which is funded through the Shared Prosperity Fund. And my role is to support regeneration projects and to deliver the Northern Devon Culture Strategy. So I just wanted to highlight a few of the things that I'm working on before handing over to the really interesting cultural organisations. So the first thing to mention is that culture isn't a statutory service, as I'm sure you know, apart from libraries. And Torridge District Council isn't a big grant-making body, although we do have the councillor grants that Councillor Brenton has just referred to. So we have to be really imaginative and strategic about how we fund culture and how we work with our cultural bodies. So there are 3 different ways that we do this. The first is by working with our Arts Council funded national portfolio organisations, and we're lucky to have 2 of those in Torridge, 3 in fact if you count Libraries Unlimited, and I'll let you hear from them directly in a moment. The second way is through the Northern Devon Cultural Partnership, which is us working in partnership with our counterparts at North Devon Council. And the partnership board itself covers a whole spectrum of the creative sector, from large cultural organisations to SMEs to big organisations, freelance producers and the voluntary sector. So the Cultural Partnership is behind initiatives like the first annual Cultural Awards, which are being made next month. And we're also developing plans for a North Devon and Torridge Year of Culture in 2028. And the final way that we're working to support and boost the sector is by targeted activities that look at strategic things like building a strong relationship with the Arts Council and other external funders, developing strategic funding applications to unlock external investment into the area that can benefit the whole sector. We've recently used the Rural England Prosperity Fund to invest capital into our cultural assets at the Burton, at the Plough, at Holsworthy Community Theatre, and 2 of those have helped lever in capital funding from the Arts Council. We invest in the Museum Development Service for the South West, which ensures that our local volunteer-run museums across the district are able to have access to professional support and advice and training. And we've worked with other Devon districts to set up the Devon Screen Agency, which is the first screen agency in Devon. It brings us up to on a level with our neighbouring local authorities. And from this year onwards, Screen Devon will be working to help connect film and TV production companies with some of our beautiful filming locations, and looking at production facilities and training to develop the local skills pipeline so that we can support our young people into creative careers. I'll leave it there for now, I think, so you can hear from the cultural organisations themselves, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Claire. Are there any questions for Claire? Yeah. Councillor Hodson.
Thank you. It's fascinating to hear what a wide spectrum of things you're looking into, especially as you're only part-time. Your life must be very busy. Interested to hear about you working with North Devon. North Devon have just launched a public consultation regarding the public arts funding that they have as to what the community would like to see. Now, I'm aware, and you are possibly aware, I'm sure, that we have some public arts funding. Would you consider mirroring or proposing that we mirror North Devon's consultation for ideas for public art expenditure?
Yeah, I would. They're at the public consultation stage now, as I understand it. There was a stage before that where they worked with the local community to develop a brief and invite proposals and submissions, which were then shortlisted by the community, by their town team for culture in Barnstable, because it's a Barnstable project. And yes, absolutely, very happy to work with councillors here to develop a similar process.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire. Shall we invite, I think it's the plough going first, is that right? Thank you. And we've got a presentation, I believe. So we've got Emma Marston and Fran Hardman from the plough. Thank you.
Hello everybody, thanks for inviting us today. This is really lovely to talk to you all. I'm a new Chief Executive, been in post for about 5 months, and Fran is Chair of Trustees. So yeah, today we'd just like to talk to you about what we're up to and our plans for the future. Next slide, please. So I suppose being a new Chief Executive, I'd want to share with you my vision for the plough, and that's the front page of our brochure. Be inspired, play and enjoy the arts, and that's what you were talking about a minute ago with Red Herring Productions. Playing is really important for our well-being. It's fun, and in this, world that we're in at the moment, it's necessary, I think. So yeah, very much my vision is to have fun, to connect the community through creative workshops, to make new friends, making a terracotta sculpture of a dragon, and to get creative and have a go, no matter, what you're, whether you have an art background or what have you. Also, I want people to walk through the doors of the plough. We've got our hub in Barnstable as well, St Anne's, and to just leave the world behind and just escape into a world of comedy or fantastic theatre, and to just have fun and play and enjoy the arts. Next slide, please. So these are our core values: creativity, community, and connection. We are the beating heart of the community in Torrington, and we have a thriving cafe, and it's really wonderful to see everybody coming in to our lovely warm space and meeting up and socialising and connecting. That was something we did miss, in the pandemic. So I feel very strongly that we need to make sure we continue to have these shared experiences and connect with each other in our community. Next slide, please. So what we offer is very varied, and on a weekly basis we have a number of events going on. We have our live theatre events. We are the home to the Comedy Store, which we're particularly proud of. We've got Seth Lakeman about to come up. We've got the Bob Dylan film showing soon. We've got fantastic exhibitions as well. We have talks at our art exhibitions that are really well attended. Bottom right hand corner you can see our brilliant youth theatre, and that was their performance called Midnight Circus. I've come in and it's really interrogating the programme now, making sure that what we put on will increase the number of people coming to our auditorium and our cinema, because there have been dwindling ticket sales since the pandemic. So we are turning up the fun. We are putting on more comedy, again, as I said, because the world is a tricky place at the moment. And so yes, you'll see many more comedians. We also are quite nostalgic at the moment, I think. You know, we all want to sort of look back a bit because it's a tricky world. So you'll see the sort of rise of tributes, you'll see it already, but perhaps from, you know, bands that you listened to in your teenage years. I'm also keen to increase the number of a younger generation coming through the plough because, you know, a lot of our audience are senior, totally fine, but what we're finding is we need to bring in the sort of younger generation. So the programme, again, you'll see a change. You'll see some bands that, like Tankers the Henge, coming very soon, that will attract a slightly younger audience. 2 weeks ago, we had Joe Thomas from the In-Betweeners, a very, very young audience, and many of them hadn't been to the plough before, which is completely the strategy. We're trying to bring in new members of the community to enjoy the space and have fun. Next slide, please. We're really, really proud of our outdoor theatre programme. We want to bring the arts to different parts of the community, and we have lots and lots of different venues that we put these brilliant shows on, include Castle Hill in Philly, Tapley Park in Bideford, I'm just at Heartland Abbey, Clovelly Court, Baggy Point Car Park, and we've put on 29 shows last year at 13 different venues from June to August, and we'll do the same this summer. Next slide, please. We are very proud of our cafe. We sometimes put on food events with our film events. So we had a Pulp Fiction burger night, which was really popular. And again, trying to attract a slightly younger audience. I appreciate 45, 50-year-olds are not very young, but, you know, got to, you know, keep the faith. So the Pulp Fiction burger night was you know, putting on a classic 90s film and the burger, and it was really, really popular. We've got the Halloween, we had a fondue, pumpkin fondue available, and we put on quiz nights, and we're using the cafe as a sort of a place to do fundraisers, and it's a very, very vibrant place. We've got a fantastic chef, Lawrence, who puts on this fantastic food. So it's lovely coming through the doors of the Plough in Torrington and smelling the coffee and the cake and the yummy food. And we're hoping eventually to develop that so we can consistently serve food in the evenings because, you know, people come to Torrington, they want to get food before a show. We're hoping to develop that. But we do put on pop-up supper clubs 3 times a month at the moment, so world food events and so on. Next slide, please. We've got some great stats here. We put on over about 250 events every year. Last year, we had 13 free exhibitions, 180 workshops, 103 theatre shows, lots from the Plough Youth Theatre, lots and lots of films, 204 different films. That doesn't include screenings and spoken word events from people like Harry Baker. We have over 40,000 people coming through our doors. That's in Torrington, our hub in Barnstaple. We have outreach hubs as well in Linton Town Hall. We do performances there, and in Heartland as well. Really trying to reach out as a community and make arts more accessible to them. Next slide, please. It's all about community for me and at us at the Plough, and you know, we did a fundraiser for the Great Torrington School a week ago. They had their school bands, they were raising money for their music department, and that was really successful. We've got a pantomime coming up for our 50th anniversary, April the 11th. It's a big milestone for the Plough, 50 years, and we have put a call out for the community to get involved in the pantomime, and we've cast it, and now they are rehearsing. There are going to be some cameos by some of the Plough people that have been part of the Plough. There's even the Plough cow as well, so that's going to be good fun, and hopefully it will help us to raise some money too. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is, we're very proud, I know, but the Plough Youth Theatre is a brilliant organisation, over 70 members. They start at theatre tots, tiny 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds doing dance and movement, right up to 18-year-olds. And many of them join the Plough Youth Theatre at age 5 or 6, and then, you know, over time, just stay with the Youth Theatre every Saturday doing their workshops until they're 18. We're actually now looking at developing a sort of adult youth theatre so that they have somewhere to move on to. But they are tremendously loyal, and they learn so many new skills, from everything from backstage production to lights and sound, to how to perform on stage, how to sing. And some of the confidence you see with the young people just growing and growing is absolutely amazing. And they all get on so well. They have that real sense of belonging, and they really, really enjoy the workshops. Next slide, please. Yeah, so these are just some lovely pieces of feedback that we have received. This person just sat in a room all day, wasn't very sociable, but after being a part of the Plough Youth Theatre, they've said it changed their life around and put them in the right direction. Next slide. And we only got this 2 days ago. We put on a show, A Night at the Musicals, which was a Plough Youth Theatre production, songs from Cats and Wicked. And this is a mum who got in touch 2 days ago. It's absolutely amazing piece of feedback about how her child's confidence was so low and she was so nervous, but now, since being a part of the youth theatre, she just feels that you know, her confidence has grown and grown, and she just was singing the praises of the youth theatre, which is amazing. We also, throughout the school summer holidays, bring the arts to the community again. This is a picture of St Anne's Community Centre in Barnstaple, our hub, and we often get funding to put these on, play in a day workshops or play in a week workshops. Last year we chose plays by local authors, Michael Morpurgo being one, and Tanya Landman, and the kids spend the day obviously creating a play, and then they perform it to their parents, carers in the evening. Next slide, please. This is a group of adults with additional needs who attend every week at the Plough, and they rehearse and they do drama workshops. They're actually at the moment rehearsing for Mary Poppins, and they're going to be performing Mary Poppins. But again, this is an amazing group of adults. We've had one member who was non-verbal, and then over the rehearsals has lines in a play. So again, the growth in confidence is amazing. Next slide, please. The same, this group, again, adults with additional needs who do a dance class weekly at the Plough. Next slide, please. So we are really committed to making the arts accessible. At the Plough in Torrington, we have obviously wheelchair access, automatic doors, a lift to the first floor, hearing aid loop. The programme itself, thanks to the Torridge District Council's funding, we subsidise the Torridge deal, so people who come to the cinema from Torridge get money off their tickets. We obviously have free art exhibitions. We do occasionally put on relaxed shows for people with additional needs. What we do need is a transport, public transport that can get our audience to and from Torrington, particularly Torrington. There isn't a bus from South Molton to Torrington, and many people can come into Torrington, but they can't leave after 7:30 in the evening. So, I mean, as much as we love Torrington, it would be quite nice to have a public bus that you could then get on and then you can enjoy yourself a drink. So, you know, to have a route, even on a Friday or a Saturday, that could take people from Barnstaple, Bideford to Torrington and back would be extraordinarily helpful for the Plough. Next slide, please. So our challenges, you know, we do obviously have challenges because, as I mentioned earlier, we've, you know, post-pandemic struggles. People are not coming out as much because of the cost of living. You know, going to the theatre and cinema probably is the first thing that tends to go when you're paying your bills for food and heating, electricity. We have also very high energy bills when we put on a big show with lots of lights and projections. That costs us quite a lot. And we are at the moment using our reserves to sustain the Plough, and we have done for the past 3 years. Our reserves are running out. Next slide, please. We have an amazing team of volunteers, and honestly couldn't do it without them. 65 plus volunteers. We've got the equivalent of 7 full-time staff, and we're now looking at how best to utilise the volunteers even more. But the volunteers already steward events, they take part in sound and lighting. There's all aspects of the plough. They're involved in the administration. Here's a fantastic volunteer, Fran. Hours and hours of your time for free. So very, very grateful for our volunteers who save us about £150,000 annually. Next slide, please. We are so grateful to Torridge District Council and the local authorities, and particularly the Arts Council, who have been extraordinarily supportive. Obviously, we're an MPO, which is amazing, and National Lottery as well. We couldn't do it without funding. We wholly rely on that, and it's absolutely amazing. Next slide, please. So the next 50 years, obviously we're reaching our milestone. You know, it's amazing that we are 50, April the 11th. And so to continue for another 50 years, we're looking at the moment to renovate the Arts Centre. The actual building is over 200 years old, and it's got a leaking roof, and we have to come in the morning and mop up puddles on the floor. So we have got an Arts Council grant that we are looking to match fund at the moment. We've got a fundraising campaign, which I'll talk about in a sec, and we're hoping to unlock this big grant, which will then help us to renovate the Arts Centre, which would be fantastic. I want to continue to be a platform for grassroots theatre and local bands and musicians to be inspired by some of the more established artists that are coming through our doors as well. So we have this new generation of performers coming up through the Arts Centre. And of course, I'd love the community to get involved and to have a play and enjoy the arts. Next slide, please. So how can you support us? Well, you know, I mentioned this bus route. That would be an amazing start. Funding. You know, we have been hard hit by the cost of living crisis, the pandemic. There's various things that have hit us hard, and we're not the only arts centre to say that. I appreciate in the UK, you know, we're a number of arts centres are all struggling at the moment. Our fundraising campaign is Buy a Brick, and that's this match funding that we're trying to encourage people to buy a brick, £10, £20, more please, and we can unlock this grant, which is almost £250,000. We have to raise 50,000, and I know Torridge District Council have already donated to that. We're always looking for volunteers, so if anybody wants to volunteer their time, that's great. Yeah, so any help to be able to sustain us financially would be gratefully received. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that detailed presentation. I'll take questions now from Councillor Brenton.
Thank you, Chair. I just wondered, you mentioned your involvement with Great Torrington School. Do you have similar sort of outreach approach to Bideford, the Academy at Bideford, or even to Petrop? Because, of course, a lot of Torridge students and young people do go to Petrop for further education. So do you have some outreach there? Because I know Bideford College has considerable facilities for filming and stage production, but I don't know that they use it that much. I'm probably being, you know, completely in error here, but you know, they don't have a huge program. I know they use their cinema. But
yeah, I mean, we have our youth theatre, I suppose, program, and we get many students from the area coming to that. I'm going to getting there, I know. And I think that if we get funding, we do outreach work, particularly, so we've gone into, say, we've got Parfield School, we've got Madewell School, and they're for kids with additional needs, so we've done outreach work there, and we got funding for that. We don't at the moment, no, not Bideford College, but that is something we could look at. It's often about resources. Yeah.
So we have close links with BTS and Blue Coat School in Torrington.
Right.
And one of the things we've had is funding for local art, for artists who are doing exhibitions, to bring the school children to the centre, to run a half-day workshop. So one class comes in the morning, one class comes in the afternoon, and then they show their work in the gallery, and they're under the tutelage of an experienced artist. But again, that was funded through a scheme where we were able to apply for that and bring that through.
Right.
We don't have those links with Bideford and schools.
Because of course we've got the Burton here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
of
know, a
course.
sort of liaison seems obvious.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, that's
Yeah.
obviously an opportunity for you.
Yeah, me and Harriet have had a couple of coffees, so we're starting to link up, yeah, from the Harriet from Burton, yeah.
Right, okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, Councillor Thomas?
Good morning. You've talked about the renovation of the building, and I'm just wondering, do you own the building, and will the renovation help you bring down your energy costs?
Yes, yes. Yeah, absolutely. We do own the building. We were donated it by Town and Lands last April, I think, and so we own it now. And yes, the renovations, we hope, if we can unlock this grant, will make the building watertight. The auditorium roof leaks, the gallery roof leaks, and then once it's watertight and okay, we can put solar panels on top. We want to replace the windows as well, because they're all old and rattly, lovely old building, but you know, not great for energy.
We'll have double glazing. Yeah.
And that will, yeah, help us enormously with our overheads.
And with the solar panels, we've included batteries so that we're not going to be selling it back to the grid. We're actually going to be storing it so that then that brings our consumption down. And then the only time really, hopefully, if we can get big enough batteries and afford it, is when we do a big show where it's all lights, camera, action, smoke machines, etc. Then we might draw on the grid, but the rest of the time hopefully be self-sufficient, because our electricity bill for December was over £4,000. And that was a good month.
I was just wondering about outreach in Holsworthy, because I know that's been mentioned previously, but I didn't hear it in your presentation. Is there anything?
Yeah, we so outreach work in general, so it's something we try and do as much as we can. I've had to reduce costs since I've arrived, and which means that our staffing has reduced. That means that outreach work is going to have to be reduced slightly at the moment, just because of our resources. But we did have, I think, a play in a day in Holsworthy, and where possible, we go on, Fran. That's right.
We had some open air theatre in Holsworthy last year, and we'd like to develop stronger links. But again, it's even if we had the fund to send a paid member of staff or a volunteer, we have to cover all of their expenses and the risk assessments and the production costs and things like that. So it's project work that we would need to find funding to do.
Thank you, because I didn't know Councillor Shepherd's not here, but Councillor James is here. I think they're in pantomime mode at the moment.
Great.
HATS, the Holsworthy Amateur Theatre Society. I didn't know if you were connected.
Oh, that's so good, because that's great, because the Torrington players that were very established for years and years approached us recently because they want to continue, but they don't want to do all the admin and all the sort of rehearsal space and all that. So we were saying, okay, and that would be quite a good link as well. So we're looking at this possible adult theatre group that would start after the panto. And so that's a good call. We could try and link up. Yeah, that's great.
Brilliant. Councillor Thomas?
Just on the subject of your cafe, I mean, you mentioned how important it is to you. How important is it financially? And if you develop it more, is there a risk that you're competing with other businesses in the town?
It's very important to us financially. It's a trading arm of the charity. So the idea is that it will make a profit and give us the profit. At the moment, it's breaking even. It's got a new new manager, been in post for 5 months. She's really doing a brilliant job. So it is breaking even. It's not running at a loss, but obviously we need it to make a profit to be able to benefit us as a charity. Anyway, that's in hand. What was the second part of your question? Sorry.
Are you competing with other businesses in the town?
Oh, yeah. Well, we are, yeah. I mean, that's what happens in life. And we're not competing. I mean, the thing is, it's just, there are cafes and then there are other cafes. I mean, Torrington... No, I mean, the thing is that, yeah, of course, there are probably about 4 cafes in Torrington, maybe more. And I think competition is a good thing. It's, you know,
What
I
I'd
don't
say,
know.
what I'd say is
Not sure.
our food offering is somewhat different to most of the other cafes. And by a stroke of sheer genius and luck, we were able to recruit Leanne Freeman, who runs
Oh,
Fork
yeah.
and Feast. So she already runs a cafe in Torrington and has therefore developed the Ploughs offering as a very different beast to her other business. And then it means that the Green Lantern, who is under new ownership, they seem to be doing quite well. And then I think, is that all the cafes?
think it is.
Lunchtime cafes, yeah.
Mm.
Fork
Fork and Feast, yeah, that's
well, that's
Leanne.
Leanne's other
A joint,
business.
yeah.
And of course, you can argue that drawing more people into the town is good for everyone as well, of
Oh,
course.
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think in the evenings, it's very much needed. We need
Oh,
places
really
to
needed,
eat
yeah.
in Torrington, so I think it's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And if we can have more of the evening dining experiences, it would be
Yeah.
really welcome in Torrington.
Yeah, I mean the pop-up suppers have been really popular, and so there is, you know, ho-ho an appetite for it. But I think that's, yeah, we would love to develop that. That is very much what we'd like to do. Yeah.
Brilliant. Councillor Hodson?
Thank you. Thank you for a really interesting presentation. Two things that you said at the beginning was that you wanted to encourage growth in the participation of younger people, not just as performers, but as people who come to events. And wow, what a number you've got in your youth theatre anyway, but it's not everybody who wants to tread the boards but wants to attend. Then we looked at the prices you were charging for your food and meals for events. I wanted to know what you were doing, because that, I would say, for an average teenager is probably a ticket beyond their means. And unless their parents are prepared to subsidise it, that may be putting them off. What do you offer in the way of discounts and incentives, and even perhaps low-cost meals if they come to something? And I haven't had my microphone on, I'm so sorry.
Okay, so in terms of youth participation, we have done a few things. So one is that we do special screenings for the schools. For example, we had a matinee performance of a solo performer doing the Christmas Carol, which was booked out by GTS. So that was the whole theatre full of their kids as part of their end of term celebration. And at that point, they can buy crisps and fizzy drinks and a very unnutritional food from
Things of fudge.
yeah. which appeal to their taste buds in the mid-afternoon. Of an evening, this is where the difference in catering is noticeable, because we're not planning to offer cheap and cheerful food. And while I understand that it makes our offering less attractive perhaps to a group of teenagers who might come to the theatre or a film or a band together, I have to say that on a Saturday when we have 70 young people coming in and out of the building, they are not queuing up to ask for fish finger sandwiches even when we did offer them previously, under a previous iteration. So at the moment, we're not looking to cater to all tastes in terms of the cafe.
Right. Thank you very much for that. I don't think I queue up for a fish finger sandwich, but that's a matter of taste, I suppose. Yes, I think it's about setting the bar so that you don't exclude people who would otherwise come. And I think your work with the school is obviously sowing seeds with those young people.
Yeah.
And, you know, hats off to you for doing that. It is an uphill challenge. And you say you have discounted ticket value. What sort of discount is offered for young people under 18 or still at school? Is it school attendees?
So it's under 18s, where we can offer a special price. It will be £1 or £2 off the face value of the ticket. And we do also accept group bookings, which often have an even lower, so it'd be like book for 10 and get one free. So, you know, again, that's,
Right.
yeah. And with the Torridge deal, anyone who lives in Torridge gets £1 off.
Thank you.
So please. And we now have a super new ticketing system that will check your postcode. Sorry.
Thank you. I attended with my 3-year-old girl. It was like an immersive theatre production. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was over Christmas. And it was...
Yeah. Winter's Tale? No.
Yeah, that was right, Winter's
yeah.
Tale. And I'd never been to anything like that before. Are you going to have more of those?
Yeah, yeah.
That was really good. It felt like you were on TV, you know, when you watch it. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
brilliant.
Oh, good.
And it's a great way to get the really little ones
Yeah,
involved.
exactly.
And it was theatrical without being overwhelming. But
Oh, lovely. Thanks.
have we got any other questions, or should we invite the Burton? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So now we invite Harriet Cooper and Rob Millward from the Burton.
I feel like that's quite hard to follow. It's amazing to see all that. And, you know, somebody, like Emma said, I'm very new as well. I'm 4 months here. And I moved to Bideford for the job, having not really known it well before. So being part of this kind of art sector and the creativity here is really inspiring and exciting. And I know me and Emma have already had a few coffees and shared some of the challenges which are similar, particularly around young people. And we'll talk about that a little bit in what we do. So I'm Harriet. I'm very new and very excited to be here with the Burton. And Rob's been chair for a little longer. You've been a few years. And yeah, we've got a bit of a presentation. I thought I would just recap a little bit about what we do and what we've been doing in the last year, and similarly also talk a bit about what we're thinking about in the future. So if it's okay to go on to the next slide, that'd be great. So I think you probably all know the Burton quite well because we've been here a while. And I think it's really good to remember kind of some of the really powerful things about the organisation. So like the Plough, we're a national portfolio organisation. And we're one of only 4 national portfolio organisations in Devon that is focused on the visual arts. The other 2 being the Box and Cast in Plymouth. The Box obviously being a huge undertaking, and Make Southwest. So there's just 4 visual arts focused national portfolio organisations in Devon. We are an accredited museum and hold incredible collections for Bideford, including the Burton Art Gallery and Museum collection, which was part of the original gift to the town from the artist Hubert Coop when we were set up in 1951. So we have this brilliant collection which has internationally significant works in it. Not always all of it's on the show, but we try to bring that out as much as possible. And our role in kind of caring for that has also included being able to support gifts and acquisitions of work to continue to grow a collection that's really relevant for Bideford. We are the tourist information for the town, and we print a lot of bus timetables at the moment. I think since they stopped printing them, printing the guides, we're doing a lot of work sort of supporting people to find their way around Torridge and to decide what they do when they visit here as well. And we're beginning to collect a lot more data ourselves about what people do when they visit the Burton. Where else are they going? Are they going to shops? Are they staying overnight? How are they spending their money in the area? I think that'll be really useful for us in terms of how we can learn more about that and learn how to point our visitors to other places in the area too. As part of our business model, very similar to the Plough, we have a trading arm. So we have a shop, which is really well loved. We have a craft gallery, which has been going since the 1980s and presents some incredible work by artists across the UK, not just the Southwest, which is for sale for people. And we lease a cafe to an organisation called Café de Parc, who've been with us a very long time, 2008, I think, and have a beautiful spot kind of looking over the park as well. So If we could go on to the next slide. I'm not going to kind of talk through all of these figures, but I guess this is some of the stuff that we were really proud of from last year. I guess to give you a really good sense of the breadth of our engagement and the different things we're working on, but also some of the things we're proud of are about how we move forward and how we similarly begin to reduce costs and think about environmental sustainability of our building and our work. I guess the one area I would talk a little bit about, because I think when I talk to colleagues in galleries and museums across the sector who maybe don't know the Burton or haven't visited Bideford or maybe have never even heard of it, they're always really surprised at how many visitors we get to our building. So 159,000 visitors into our building, and to be honest, I've separated out our engagement here, so it's a little less than sometimes the figure we give. It's huge. It is a lot of people, and that is both local visitors who may come 2 or 3 times during an exhibition or may come every week to meet friends. And it's a lot of tourists who will travel to see us. We have visitors travel over 100, 150 miles to see us, and we are able to gather all of that information from our surveys. So I guess to put it in context a little as well, it's something I think about how we compare to other galleries in the area. So Barnstable Museum, I think, records around 60,000 visitors, they say, online. The Holborn in Bath is just over 100,000. And Tate St Ives, which obviously has much huger investment and profile than us, they're recording a little over 200,000, which is something we're aiming towards by 2028 at the moment. A peer gallery we're working with this year in partnership is Towner Art Gallery, which is based in Eastbourne. And we're working on an exhibition that has been shown partly with them and then will come to us. They record about 100 to 175,000 visitors, which is really significant, and they have just hosted the Turner Prize in 2023. So for me, kind of thinking about the audiences we get and where we can be ambitious to be a player on the national art scene is really interesting. I think considering the scale and the investment we have in the organisation, what we achieve is fantastic. And a lot of that's about the community we're in. It's about Bideford being such a supporter for us, and you see that similarly to the Plough. You know, our volunteers are a key part of that. We have a really thriving volunteer programme, so many skills, so many people with different knowledge and skills that they bring to the organisation, including helping us to archive parts of our collection and create new research about it. So I'm going to briefly talk through some areas of our work, but I'm not going to talk about every part because I think you probably know it quite well. But if we could go on to the next slide. So we have 2 temporary exhibition galleries downstairs, and we have a ceramics gallery upstairs where we change the exhibitions quite regularly too, as well as our museum, which we look at different displays and how we continue to tell the story of Bideford through that. The focus of the exhibition programme is kind of twofold. One is about being able to bring really inspiring, internationally renowned artists to North Devon for our audiences here. And we have the facilities to do that not many organisations between St Ives and Bristol have. So being able to bring works by Picasso, by Louise Bourgeois, by Miro, like that's really important, because it's important we have access to those works here. The other side is that we really want to create opportunities and platforms for local talent. So currently a lot of that gets shown through our open exhibitions, which give anybody in this area a chance to submit work and have that shown on our walls. And we also think about where we can offer kind of more developmental step-up opportunities for artists. So, for example, last year for Photo Month, we worked with a Devon-based photographer, Robert Darsh, to do a solo show alongside a presentation of work by internationally renowned artist Martin Parr. Now, that work was featured in the Financial Times art section and had national coverage. And Robert Darsh's work is incredible. So being able to actually celebrate the talent we have here with significant presentations of work, which are helping artists to try new things, is something I'm really interested to explore going forward as well. We work a lot in partnership, and that's really important, both in terms of how we maximise the resources we have, but also in how we build profile and how we encourage our audience to grow not just within Torridge or Devon, but also nationally, how people think that actually they'll stop off in Bideford when they come to the Southwest because they want to visit and see what's happening here. So we work with really brilliant leading organisations like Tate and the British Museum and the Arts Council collection, but we also collaborate more locally as well, and all of those partnerships bring different things to the work that we do. I guess underlying everything we think about in the exhibitions programme, and maybe it doesn't always seem evident, but we always ask the question sort of why here? So when we're thinking about the exhibitions, a question we will sort of ask internally is why is this work relevant here? We want to bring new ideas, new artists, new perspectives, but we also want that work to chime with the daily experience of living in Torridge and what that means to local peoples. So that's a connecting thread kind of through what we're doing with the programme. We could go to the next slide. So, like most organisations, our engagement programme is really broad, and we try to think about how we can engage children, families, members of the communities at different stages of their life with us. And so there's a lot of different programmes that we run. We have sort of a core adult workshop programme where we look at different skills and different courses, and we have a really, really kind of great audience for that. We do a lot of work for children and families through different programmes. And I'll talk a little bit maybe about young people, because I know that's something that the Plough have raised as well. Our audience at the moment, from our audience surveys for last year, we're kind of looking at about only 8% of our audience is under 30, which is really low. And I think from an audience development perspective, we can interrogate that, and we can understand why that maybe is with some of the ways that we program, but also how it feels to come into our building, and it's things we're talking about a lot. So one of the major projects that we've been running for a little while is Burton Youth Collective, and this was initially funded by Tate, actually, as part of an engagement programme around a project we did with them. And this programme is for a group of young people who are aged between 14 and 21 who are interested in art. And in this programme, we do skills development, we help build their confidence, they work with artists, they visit studios. When we have funding, we can take them to other places. We've done trips to London. We've just received some funding to take the group to Bristol to visit an artist studio there, an artist who we'll be working with in the summer. So it's a programme which enables young people to come together around a shared interest in creativity and develop that kind of critical thinking that creativity can build, and think about kind of where that takes them. We've had some real successes in that programme. You know, we've had people who have gone on to study art at university, or to opt to take that kind of for A-level or for GCSE and kind of feel more confident in that. And it's one of the programmes that we're looking to fundraise to really stabilise this year. We want to continue to offer a really strong programme of artist workshops, of trips, of being able to engage that group in the arts in a way that you don't always just get from visiting a gallery. So it's a programme that's really important to us. And, you know, our membership in the group fluctuates. When I first started, I think we were down to 5, and that's partly because of exams, of people moving on to higher education or different routes or going into work. I think we're currently getting back up to around 10 at the moment, but it's a really nice group. And I guess our ambition for that group is that we can begin to build their voice more into our programme. So at the moment, I'm doing a lot of thinking about how we build a skate park in the gallery, because that's what they want to do. So I think, you know, at the moment they programme events, but we really want to hear their ideas about what we put in the gallery, how they're involved in that. And I think that will help us also bring in other young people to kind of be part of those programmes. So yes, we're continuing to work on that. I think I'll just briefly say around art and well-being, it's a really important part of what we do in terms of bringing people together. And one of the programs, one of the many free programs that we run around this is called the Sewing Bee, and it's actually in many ways it's one of our most successful programs in that it's incredibly simple, but it is us giving our kind of Kingsley Room space, and participants bring their own sewing projects. They bring their own sewing machine, their project, and they sit and make work together. And it's entirely free to come to, and it becomes around social connection and conversation. And it's been amazing sort of hearing kind of the feedback from our team who work with that group of just how good those connections between the group are and how they support each other. So a huge kind of thing I think about with the building is what we do with our space and who comes into that, who has access to it, and what, by being in the building, they bring to our understanding of what the community needs. And space will be a thing I talk about later, because it's something, as Pascal said as well, everyone needs space at the moment, I think. So if we could go to the next slide. So schools is a huge huge part of kind of what we're thinking about at the moment. And you know, I think we really believe that ensuring that every child in Torridge has access to art in their education is a key role of ours. So it's something we're thinking a lot about, and we'll be doing a lot more fundraising towards this year as well. So last year we had 19 schools visit the Burton, and that is brilliant. You know, we've had some really great engagements with those schools. But we have schools travel a really long way to visit us, sometimes over an hour. And the feedback I've had from my team who are working with our schools as well is that they see an increasing gap about those schools who can afford to visit us and those who can't. And that's something that we don't want to be a decider about whether you get to go to an art gallery and see art in that space. So a highlight of our year is our annual school show, and a plug that it is coming up very soon. We'll be having a celebration event on the 21st of March for it. And with that, we work with around 35 schools in Torridge and North Devon. And last year, that show, which takes over the whole of the gallery, and I've not experienced it yet, but I've been told by a lot of people it's the best thing we do. It was visited by over 15,000 people last year, which is amazing, and just also kind of really shouts about the talent and creativity we have in Torridge in terms of the young generation, the next generation of artists and creatives as well. We also support a teachers network. So we have 3 to 4 meetings a year for teachers in the area, and it's really around connecting them to art, it's supporting new skills and connections to artists, which will give them confidence to be able to bring art into the curriculum and also engage with us more closely. So it becomes a bit of a peer network. And our next one of those is happening at the end of February, and I think is based around printmaking workshops, and it's been really popular, so we're really pleased with that. And I guess the last 2 elements around schools is that we have the art box, which you may have seen in Pascal's presentation as an egg shack for a little period last year. But the art box is a way that we can take the work we do out to more rural communities or to communities where it's just harder to travel into us. So we are looking at how we can use that with schools more. And I think I'm certainly interested in how we can perhaps take some of the collection outside of the building to schools, how we can begin to take art to places as well as within the building. So as alongside thinking about schools with that, we have a presence at a lot of community events. I think over the last couple of summers, we've engaged in about 3,000 people in art activities, and we go to Appledore Book Festival, to Pride, to Heartland Carnival, and really try and make arts a presence at those events. And finally, we've seen a real increase in appetite for art for home education. So on a Monday, we host 2 sessions now with 24 children aged 8 to 16, supporting them through their arts awards for home education too. So with schools, I think our big challenge this year is we want to start offering bursaries again. We want to start being able to just remove that economic barrier for schools to visit us. So we will be doing a big fundraising campaign in March alongside the school show. We've very generously been offered match funding, so up to £5,000, every pound we raise will be matched by external donors. So you give us £10, we get £20. And that's really going to be hugely beneficial in being able to offer a really substantial budget for bursaries for schools to come to us and for the art box to go to them and to continue our work with teachers. So we're excited about that. If we could move to the next slide. So our collection, well, Biddeford's collection, not our collection, is a really key part of who we are. And I'm still learning about it. You know, it's a really big collection, and there's some incredible stuff in there. You know, we get requests to see works, to feature images of works in publications. You know, there's brilliant things, and it's really important to me and to the team that the people of Biddeford and Torridge kind of really have ownership of that collection and know it. So it's something we're thinking a lot about, and certainly next year we're hoping to do quite a few shows which really bring that collection out into conversation about more. We've got over 500 works on paper and paintings, we've got over 1,000 ceramic pieces, we've got an incredible decorative arts collection, we've got Revilius photography, we've got Ackland and Edwards archive, we've got the Bertram Prance collection. We are a collection of collections, and something I found really heartwarming coming to the Burton was seeing our collection has been built by a lot of gifts, and a lot of gifts from artists as well, who really wanted Biddeford to look after these works and to have them for the community. I think that's a really beautiful thing. So we're thinking a lot about what it means to collect, because I'm sure many of us in this room collect in our own ways as well. We're building new research around the collection. So at the moment, we are hosting a collaborative PhD with the University of the West of England to research the Ackland and Edwards archive for the first time. We have an incredible student called Rachel Marsh, who's become just a core part of our team and a core part of who our volunteers kind of work with as well. So we have a regular Wednesday group of volunteers who sit in our museum and transcribe letters from this archive for the first time they've ever been really looked at or read. And this research is kind of stuff that Rachel is taking forward and will be publishing and will become an exhibition in the next few years as she develops her kind of PhD. We really want to continue to host those types of opportunities to actually bring new knowledge into the works that Bideford has. And that's going to be really key to how we think about it in the future. The other thing we're doing a lot of with the collection and really want to develop is how we really support Torridge's community to tell their stories through it. So we've done a number of co-curated projects with different groups. This year in particular, we've worked with the Brave Spaces Women's Art Club to look at displays around kind of the movement on objects and what has to be left behind often in moments of crisis. And that display was really moving and important in our museum space and was then lent to Barnstable Libraries for 16 days of action in December last year. At the moment, we're talking about the Appledore Lifeboat anniversary, thinking about can we do a curated display around that? How do we bring people in to bring their own stories to their objects and to bring their own objects into that conversation too? So a lot more focus on how we kind of work in the museum is one of the things we're thinking about. And I guess finally on collection, one of the, it always amazes me, but we have one of the best ceramic collections in the Southwest. It tells a really important story about North Devon slipware, about studio wear, and the way that the team have really developed that has been to bring contemporary artists into conversation with that through our annual ceramics residency. This year, we're going to be having another artist in residence, but we're also going to be looking at how we make sure the ceramics collection is recognised and applying to have that designated as a collection of national significance. So it's going to be a really key part of what we're thinking about. We also have the bottle kiln outside, and we're thinking particularly for next year how we might activate that again and really celebrate kind of our local community of makers and ceramicists and creative children as well. So we're excited about that. And I guess the last point on that slide is that it feeds into the kind of the importance of the collection, I think, is that it's available for loan and it does get requested. You know, we will be loaning the whole of the Revilius English Eye to Thelma Hubert Gallery this summer, which would be amazing to see that collection kind of out in another gallery. We have work going to Eastbourne next year as well, which is for a major kind of show. So I think we really shouldn't underestimate the importance of the work that is there. And I'm certainly really enjoying getting to know it. This year, we've continued to be able to make a small number of acquisitions, particularly in ceramics, with the support of the Friends of the Burton. They've helped us to purchase a number of items from the Fishley collection, which went up for auction in autumn last year. The Fishleys of Fremington. So it's been great to bring some works that kind of complement the R.J. Lloyd collection that's already present there and continue to deepen that story that we tell. We'll do a new display with those works later this year. So, if we could go to the next slide. So, environmental work is key to not just kind of the building, but the ethos of what we do. And I think being based where we are, it's always going to be a part of our program in terms of content, but also how we're thinking about what we do. And I think you will know if you've visited recently, the building is currently full of portaloos outside. We are doing a lot of work through the capital investment that Arts Council gave us and the £20,000 we got from the Rural Prosperity Fund to improve our building, very similar to the Plough. So we have installed solar panels. We've not had much sun yet, so we're not quite sure of their success. We're currently redoing the toilets to make those gender neutral and just to improve the facilities. We're replacing windows, again, to remove energy loss. We're going to be focusing on the outside of the building shortly and collaborating with local organisations and artists to think about what we plant around, how we talk about what energy is kind of being generated by the building as well. So we're doing a lot of work to both reduce costs, but also think about how you understand kind of environmental impact of the building. We've also done a huge amount of work, my colleague Sarah, to reduce our use of single-use plastic in our shop. I think that's been a really key thing, is just we're beginning to go through that process of going, how are we thinking about this at different levels of the organisation? And we have less than 5% single-use plastic in our shop now, which has been a really, really important move, and really kind of, I think, maybe makes the shop quite distinctive in the offer that Bideford has as well. With the support of the Regeneration Board in Torridge, we've digitised our Tourist Information Centre. So now people can use a kind of interactive screen to also access information on their own, which has reduced the amount of paper we have in the Tourist Information Centre, and enabled the team to sort of self-serve a lot as well. And I guess something I'm really keen to think more about is, as a bigger organisation in the cultural scene here, like, how do we think about circular economy and waste between our organisations? You know, if we are using plinths for a show that we no longer need, can that be used by another organisation? Or if we have materials, how do we pass that around the artistic community here? We've recently had to do some work on the trees around our building, partly due to the storm. We lost a very beautiful magnolia tree, and partly just for ongoing work that needed doing. And we've been able to offer that wood back to artists to make things from, which I hope some of that may come back into the gallery in different ways, or into our outdoor spaces as bird boxes or products for the shop. I don't know yet, but I think, yeah, we're really keen to think about that. And we do an annual environmental commission to think about what artists bring to this conversation. So this year we've had Andy Hughes exploring microplastics in the River Torridge, made an incredible video game-based film, which has been really well received and really innovative. And we're shortly going to be announcing an open call for that next commission as well. So we have these opportunities, these significant commission opportunities that we're opening up for artists as well. Can we go next slide? So economics, always a fun one, but I guess something I think a lot about our role in Torridge is how we create employment for artists and creatives. As I say, we're larger. I mean, we're large as a building, but we have 11 part-time members of staff and 1 full-time member of staff, so we're not huge still. But we work with so many brilliant freelance artists and creatives in different ways. So I think last year we worked with sort of over 25 freelance artists to give them paid work. We also represent over 50 artists in our craft gallery, and we sell their work through that. We seek opportunities to work with filmmakers, designers, and animators in the program. So we really think about how the money we get is going back into the creative sector here. And I think that kind of is something Claire touched on a little, actually, is that how Torridge's investment allows us to unlock other money is a really key part of that. The stability and the kind of importance of the profile of the organisation allows us to apply for other funding, to bring in £120,000 towards our capital project, which has all been given to North Devon and Torridge-based businesses to do that work. So we're thinking carefully about how what we have can bring more money into Torridge. We're trying to build sustainable income streams. We have been over the past few years through our shop, our craft gallery. And that's been really important. You know, at the moment that accounts for about 20% of our income. But we are also I think we've got to a point where, with the space we have, there is a limit to what we can grow further with that. But it's been a really kind of key thing. And we're always trying to work in partnership to kind of maximise that impact investment as well. Last slide, please. So, our future ambitions. So, I think it's amazing that Torridge has a 50-year-old and an almost 75-year-old organisation. Like, that is incredible and actually quite unusual. So next year we turn 75 in October, and we're thinking at the moment about how to celebrate that. And very similar to what Emma said, like, how to think forward. How do we kind of continue to think about the sustainability and future of the organisation in that year and really get people invested in that? So we've been doing a lot of brainstorming about how to celebrate with Bideford and planning kind of for programmes, but also kind of how we really kind of, talk about kind of the brilliance of this being a gift to the town as an organisation. Key to this, and I guess key to plans for the future, are how do we open up kind of the collection more? How do we open up the space more? And space is something that I'm sure councillors may already be aware of, is something that we really need more of. I know there's been historically different extension plans or things muted, and we have such a limited amount of the collection available out at the moment. We have not great storage. I would love to be able to have the storage where we could take people behind the scenes and show them things in storage when they're not out, but we literally can barely get in those rooms. And to care for the collection properly and give it kind of the care it needs, we need more space. And we need more space to be able to bring people together as well, to do a lot of the outreach work we do. And in reality, to think about new income streams, to think about how we kind of move away from reliance on public funding. How do we have more space where we could host weddings or events, or extend the shop? Like, how can we generate money? How could we have studios? How do we kind of bring those resources in, and think about how we keep going for the next 75 years? So we're thinking a lot about that. I think as well, something I'm particularly passionate about is our role in our town and what it means to be here in Bideford and in Torridge. And I know there's lots of exciting kind of regeneration things in the horizon and ambitions, and I'm really keen that we're a part of that, because where we're located, we're sort of on the edge of the town centre, and I think we need to be more present in our town and bringing some of the skills and knowledge that we have to the conversations around public art, around how we think about our public spaces, around kind of how we collaborate as organisations as well. So I guess I believe really strongly that culture has a huge part to play in regeneration, and it's been great to come into an area which has a cultural strategy that has been supported by the council. And we've seen kind of that culture as a driver of growth in towns like Margate or Folkestone, where it really has changed economic prospects in the town, and we want to be part of that, and we want to kind of really, really support that. And I think you probably want me to stop talking very soon. Yeah, I guess this is a nice way to end, is the reason we do it. You know, our mission is around educating and sharing work and being able to, our founding mission was to kind of be this place of calm and space and reflection for local people and visitors. And these are some of the comments that we've had through our most recent show. And I guess this most recent show has been a really great opportunity to think about some of the things we've talked about as a team, of like, how do we, although every show might not be family-based in content, how do we have something for families in every show? And in this show, we have a big communal woodblock in the middle that we're supporting people to be part of, and which we will print at the end, and it will be a print made by the people of Torridge. And we have kind of worksheets so people can explore the show. And it's really great to see these feedbacks from schools who visited, or individuals who kind of are saying like that they're lucky to have this work in Bideford. And we feel really lucky to do this work in Bideford, and it is with Torridge's support that we really do that. So yeah, except for the really hard to read handwriting, we've been really proud of these comments. So.
Brilliant, thank you, Harriet. Lots of information there to take in. I was amazed by the number of visitors that you've had through the door. That's huge. How much has that increased on previous year?
I'd say it's been quite stable over the past few years in my perspective. Now, I think because of the 159,000, that's last January to December. And often we're measuring in financial years for our reporting. So it depends sometimes on what shows we've had, but sometimes we're up to around 170,000 if we include all of our outreach too. But 159 through the door last year is
that's
big.
Really significant.
It is.
It's been a bit low since COVID. I mean, prior to COVID, we thought we were getting closer to, well, almost 200,000.
It's growing back, isn't it?
It's growing back.
I guess something I know the team have fed back to me as well, is sometimes when we have exhibitions on for a longer period, that will impact. So some of the major partnerships we have with Tate and places, those exhibitions are normally on for 3 months, and we'll have an amazing number of visitors, but it maybe slows a little as well, because for our audience who come really regularly and are kind of really kind of present in the building, they maybe need a new show.
Have you got any questions? Yep, Councillor Buck.
Thank you, Chair. I go to the Burton occasionally. Our group, Torridge Walk and Talk, we meet there on a Wednesday. We use Cafe des Parcs. And I did a bit of a survey with our members and said, how many of you go into upstairs, have a look at the collections and use the other facilities? Hardly any of them. A, they don't really know about it. I think they would be interested. The other thing I thought about was publicity. I don't know how much publicity you do. A lot of people have heard of the Burton, but they don't actually know what's there. I was glad to see you've implemented some of the things you talked about when you came here. Was it 18 months, 2 years ago? The solar panels. You do need more space. I think that's been recognised. I don't know what your ambitions are and how you're going to achieve that other than fundraising. But you also had a plan to expand not just there, but to reach out more. I don't know how successful you've been with that, but thank you.
Thank you. That's really, yeah, I really take on board that comment, particularly around our upstairs spaces, because it's something I have really kind of been thinking about as well, is how, when you come into the building, we have this beautiful collection upstairs. How are we getting people up there? I think it's a really, really good question. And yeah, certainly, well, Warren, our exhibitions manager, has big ambitions for how we could do things upstairs differently. So yeah, we're definitely thinking about that. I guess in terms of, I personally have an interesting tussle with the expansion and the reaching out. You know, I see, when I first applied for this role, I very much, the team said to me, we need space. And I could kind of see and understand kind of that. And coming in as a new person who's getting to know Bideford and is living in the town now, originally I thought what we need is a huge placemaking, internationally renowned architect project, because that becomes something that brings people here. It brings more people, it brings more money into town. It means that people come here and they go, oh, maybe I'll go to St. Ives after, but that's not the destination, we are the destination. And that was something I very much kind of was thinking when I came into the job. Being here a bit longer, the question of reaching out is becoming more important to me as well. And these things aren't kind of necessarily either or, but I'm curious about how, in our position in the town, and thinking about kind of real ambitions of activating the town centre, but also what it looks like around the rest of Torridge, like what is our role there, and does a much bigger, fancier building achieve that? So there's things that we need to kind of work out as a team, but with Torridge as well, about what kind of we need and what that opportunity is. But I think particularly in a context of devolution, I feel like the power of arts in terms of cultural regeneration and placemaking might be important for us as a place. And actually, how do we continue to be a really important thing on the map in Devon? And in that sense, I think placemaking is going to be hugely important. And I know that all of the artists and arts organisations here will be a really key part in that.
Thank you. Councillor Lavelle, have you got a microphone? Yeah.
Can I just say that I think we've got an amazing, undervalued and unappreciated or underappreciated resource in the Burton. I think it's astonishing the things that are brought to the Burton. I have friends who come visit me because of what you have. There's a free access to exhibitions that you'd pay a fortune, well, not a fortune, but a lot of money in London to go and see, and it's free, and they're just gobsmacked that that resource is there. But I echo the possibly Councillor Back that it's not somehow not sufficiently publicised, the fact that you have, I know you get a lot of visitors and that's wonderful, but what I mean is that even with those businesses, there could be even more. And I just don't know that people sort of quite realise that on your doorstep, you've got this exhibition, which you'd be paying a small fortune in London to go and see, on your doorstep. It's just such a wonderful thing. But I don't know how well realised it is all right. I mean, brilliant, well done. Nothing but compliments for it.
It's a really good point both of you have made, and it's something that maybe I'll take back to the team as well. I know something we've started trying recently, 'cause like everyone, our budgets are really stretched. Next year we will have to fundraise 21% of our income, which is actually a huge amount, and that's outside of, that's entirely from sort of trusts, foundations and grants. And our marketing budgets is something I'm, you know, if I could petition the board for anything, and there's many things I would, more publicity and marketing budget would be one of the things, because we can try things and test things, and at the moment we're trying bus stop adverts to try and kind of think about, as people move around Torridge, whether they see what we've got on, and that might bring them in. But there's other things I think as well in terms of doing more direct mail outs, like how do we kind of really celebrate what is here and make sure people are aware of it, as you say. I also think it's quite interesting nationally. So I personally, I've worked a lot across the UK, and before being here I was on the southeast coast in Kent. But I first got to know the Burton, I've worked in the visual arts sector for a long time, and I first got to know it about 3 years ago through seeing an exhibition in Banbury that the Burton had curated with the Arts Council collection. And I did not know the Burton at all before that, and I came to it through actually seeing something somewhere else. And I think that power of how we partner with other organisations, but also think, you know, that the work we're doing and the collections we have are really important nationally. That's something I think we need to invest in more as well, because you know, the main thing, you know, we want is for Torridge to be really proud that we have this here. As you say, you know, it's a really important thing that we have. So, yeah, I think it is a good challenge for us, and one we need to think hard about.
We've looked at things like road signs, and we need to look at it again. I mean, the last time I think it was the cost, and I think it involves Devon County Council to get appropriate road signs in there, and the Burton is set what's back from the road somewhat, and it's a little bit out the way. We've tried to get the trees pollarded more frequently, and that's been a bit of an issue. Again, we need to revisit these things amongst the other ideas that Harriet's mentioned.
Councillor Thomas, do you have another question?
Yeah, just picking up on the visitor numbers, which are very impressive. Are you able to break them down at all and say how many of those 159,000 are from within Torridge, how many within Devon, and how many are further afield?
Yeah, so we have, I don't have the stats with me now, but I can provide those. So we, as part of our Arts Council funding, we survey. We have to get around 1,000 surveys a year. So it's a very small portion, but it's a sample, and I think that's really useful. Off the top of my head, just because I was staring at the figures yesterday, although I didn't kind of take them off the system, we have a lot from the EX postcode area. But we do, when I see it on the map in the visualizations we have people coming from Scotland, we have people from the northwest, we have that kind of range, and we of course also have international visitors. So our percentage is really high in the southwest, and I really hear that feedback as well. I was talking at a conference in Somerset just on Monday, and a number of people there sort of told me about how far they travelled to come to us. They're maybe based further kind of east in Somerset or even Cornwall, but they travelled to us. And I think it's really important, given the geographical size of the southwest, to also, yeah, I mean, I'm getting used to how long it takes to travel around here. So, you know, I know that 2-hour journey or an hour journey on Google Maps, yeah, is a big journey in itself. So, yeah, I can definitely share that data.
I was just wondering, in relation to public art and using public spaces, I know I've spoken with Chris Fuller, and Sean can probably add some info, but on using like redundant shops and things as spaces that can help regenerate the town centre, and it's allowing artists to show things. And you said that you need space. Do you speak with Chris Fuller regularly?
Yes, yeah, we're having that discussion quite actively at the moment. And I think particularly, as I sort of said, that tussle of the building that was built for us and there was kind of a gift, but also our presence in the town. And I think I know there's plenty of other arts organisations as well who would really value that space to bring people together to experiment and play in. And I think we are also really interested in what it means to be more in the town and what we could bring to that. So I'm meeting, I talk to Chris regularly, and I'm meeting with the master plan in kind of people quite soon as well to talk about that.
That would be a great way to publicise the Burton as well for people in the town centre and sort of direct them to the actual art gallery and museum.
I think as well it takes away some of, we have a brilliant, beautiful building, but if you're not comfortable within it, it can be quite a hard threshold to, you know, if you don't know what's behind it. We have quite a solid front, and I think there's something about being in a less formal space that also helps kind of to bring more comfort to the work we do and hopefully bring people to us.
And I know I've mentioned to you before about we've got an artist, a mural artist who's moved to Great Torrington, and he painted, I don't know if people saw the Spaniel in Exeter. There was this amazing mural and no one seemed to know who it was. So it's Jeff Evans, and he now lives in Torrington. I think it would be amazing if we could sort of turn Torridge into a mini Melbourne and have murals on gable ends in different towns across Torridge. So I don't know how we can get that moving, but if that's something that could be taken away from the meeting and considered and looking at possible locations, I think that's a way to sort of make it's really visible, because they're massive pieces, aren't they?
Yeah.
And bringing that creativity into reality.
There's a really nice, I think it's Folkestone or possibly another space, and they talk about the town being the art, and you know, I know that Phil and art makers will talk about this probably in their presentation, but we have so many creatives in this area. Like statistically, it is incredible, and whether you see that as being something you're interested in, or whether you acknowledge that actually creative skills and creative thinking is probably what's going to move forward our economy and our opportunities, you know, it's an incredible asset, and the town being the art is always something I think is really powerful when you go somewhere and you see that creative thinking kind of around the space. So yeah, I'm very much up for finding a way with Jeff.
Great, thank you. Councillor Brenton.
That was a wonderfully comprehensive presentation, actually, of the Burton. I was wondering whether you have any opportunity to do another exhibition like the one you did for the 100 potters, which ranged from Fishley Holland to up to current potters here in the near future, because that was incredibly popular, but also incredibly inventive, and displayed a huge range of talent. And I did think that that would be something that would bring in people again. And the other thing is a bit more, well, with the people from the Plough here, this is a bit subversive, but I remember a time when Café du Parc was part of the exhibition centre of the Burton.
Oh, interesting.
And it wasn't always there. And I'm not 100% sure who gets the money from Café du Parc.
Well, it's a separate business.
Exactly, it's not you.
But they pay, they
so I presume it's Torridge.
No, it's about, in total we earn about 40,000 a year, mostly through rent that they pay.
So it's an arm's length for you, is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's right.
Right, okay.
Yes,
well,
their lease is coming up in the same way. Right. Ours is next year.
As I say, it is a bit subversive, but there was a time when that space did belong to the Burton as an exhibition space.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that they shouldn't be there or anything like that, because it's a wonderful facility. But going back to Councillor Back, I mean, I wonder how many people who eat at the Café du Parc actually go in. That'd be an interesting survey as well.
Quite a few. We think that quite a few people are drawn.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true, but on the other hand, probably not all of them.
No.
But you know, and it goes with the thing of, if we are going to try and get, and I can remember when there were attempts to expand the Burton, and they all foundered for one reason or another, which is too long to go into now. But if perhaps the Burton regained its original space, and the cafe was the extension. I know this sounds bizarre, but that probably would be more acceptable to some people who actually stymied the previous attempts to extend the Burton. I think there's more than one way to skin a cat, isn't there, really? And to think of the park, Café du Parc, as important as the Burton seems a bit, you know, counterproductive, really, in my opinion. By all means, have a Café du Parc, but it doesn't have to be there, does it? I think they should try to think outside the whatever art box it is when this is concerned, really.
Definitely for all the outside the box with how we do something brilliant that really gives more space and celebrates. So, And yeah, I would definitely have a look at that exhibition as well, because I guess...
I'm thinking of sculptors, because we've got a lot of wood carvers who may not be actually technically sculptors and sculptors in this area. And I mean, some of them are very, very exciting and dynamic, and will make a wonderful exhibition.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming to present to us. And now we invite Phil Parker from Art Makers.
Okay, we don't have any history. Art Makers was founded in 2021, so if we can have the next slide. This is the most text I'm going to put up this morning. It is a CIC, which means it's got 4 directors. I'm one of them. It's a not-for-profit. All the money has to be plowed back. Everything we raise has to be plowed back into the organisation. There are no paid staff. Everything I'm now about to tell you about is basically done by volunteers. And we ran a budget of over 100,000 in 23-24, which we raised mostly from outside the region. It supports now over 200 artists, but this, of which 50% are in Torridge. We did a quick count last week just to check, but it is actually a 50-50 split between Torridge and North Devon, which is a bit bizarre at one level, but that is actually how the numbers fall at the moment. But this is the important point, the last point on that. We've labelled the artists in this area the New Atlantic Wave because we discovered in research we did in 2021 when we set up Art Makers during COVID, basically to provide local artists with a sales outlet that didn't cost them anything at a point where they'd lost all their income. Like all the galleries and cafes were shut, there was just nothing for them. So we set up a website. We then brought in an app from New York to bring in the first virtual gallery, which we got funded through national funds. And last year, the Arts Council recognised this hidden community down here of over 300 practising artists, of which we now represent over 200, is the 3rd largest group of visual artists in England, which means the UK, after London and Cornwall. That means this little area that you sit in is an extraordinarily talented area, but also potentially nationally significant, which is not happening at the moment. And I'll come on to more of that towards the end of the presentation. The next slide. Diversity of activity. We cover the whole range here. We helped commission the Bears when they were raising charities for the Children's Hospice. We support Appledore Book Festival with a design competition. We put on exhibitions there. We do workshops. We do workshops out at Arlington. We set up last year the first business awards for creatives in North Devon, and we provided the commissions for all the artwork so that every business that won an award got a piece of original art from a local artist. We opened a gallery here in Bideford at the bottom of Bridgeton Street just over a year ago. And that's an image of the virtual gallery. If you go onto our website, that's the sort of image you'll see. And you can click on that. And we're now getting roughly about 60 visitors every couple of weeks through that virtual gallery from all over the world, including Argentina and Brazil. Okay, next slide. A little history. The dates are all wrong, I realised first thing this morning. So, you know, errors are acceptable in my world. But basically, we started in 2021. Like I said, it's now used by over 200 artists. In 2022, we created the first virtual gallery of its ilk in the UK. In 23, we opened Art Upstairs, which now runs around 8 exhibitions a year. And we took 5 artists from here to the Affordable Art Fair in London at the end of 23, which meant that the art from here was put in front of 17,000 people in the course of a weekend. Next slide. Okay, this is what we did last year. Art Upstairs is the name of the gallery. It is upstairs. There is no lift, unfortunately, which is why we called it Art Upstairs, so that everybody knew they had to go upstairs to get to it. It's exhibited over 250 original works. I mean, I've lost count of the prints and slides and cards that go through the gallery. It's stewarded by a volunteer group of artists. There's been 40 artists so far who've contributed to the stewarding of those exhibitions. No one gets paid. And we held a charity event for Alzheimer's last year, which raised a chunk of money one weekend. And we're planning to do more of that this year. But now we also have 2 artist studios there. We converted storerooms that were in the building into artist studios. And we've had 3 artists operating out of there for the last year, one of whom is an ex-heroin addict and has, serious problems. And, art has become their way to save their life, basically. Okay, next slide. This is our outreach, some of the biggest outreach work last year. We did a whole series of work with TVS and social practitioners, looking at taking people who do not leave the house. I mean, we're not talking don't visit the Burton or the Plough or us. They literally don't leave the house. And we set up workshops in Bideford and Holsworthy where TTVS and social practitioners managed to get groups of 6 to 8 people who were not literally socialising to come out and do art workshops. And that led to a whole set of new relationships, new courses being set up, and basically lives being changed. That was supported by your local Bridge Trust, look at where we are, and the National Lottery, and we're going to try and do that again this year. Okay, next slide. This is just, I mean, I didn't know where to stop here. It was like, how many more images could I actually fit on a slide? Just to give you visually some idea of what's going on and the range of work that's done locally. I mean, it is vast. It covers every single type of visual creative work, from jewellery through to ceramics. The little green thing in the middle is made by a young woman out at Black Torrington, middle of nowhere, and it's called In the Footsteps of Ancients. And it's very much about the ecology and the way that we live our lives. And the textile work she's doing, she's the tip of an iceberg. There's a new wave of textile artists in Northern Devon that at the moment are completely unrecognised. And they're doing groundbreaking work. And that's something that we intend to promote quite heavily over the coming years. Okay, next slide. In addition, last year, we created the 3rd exhibition out at Appledore, and we run workshops out there open to the public. This has become a big part of the Appledore Book Festival now, which attracts, as you know, 6,500 people. We get well over 1,000 plus people through the exhibition in 3 days. We provided a series of seminars at the Burton on the business of art, which were incredibly well attended last year. Unfortunately, we don't have the money to do that this year, but we'd love to do that again, because we do funding seminars, free funding seminars throughout the region every year. And we supported artists from Torridge doing workshops out at Arlington Court, where we run a whole programme of workshops and mini exhibitions throughout the year. Okay, next slide. In 2025, where are we going? Okay, Art Upstairs, the gallery, is planning 5 exhibitions and possibly 2 charity events this year. We've reduced the number of exhibitions because the strain on the volunteers is a bit too much, but also we were opening up the space so people could book workshops and do solo exhibitions and things like that, just to allow more access and more usage. It's a rented space. We don't own it. We could get kicked out at 6 months' notice. Each exhibition is linked to a virtual gallery. That's the current virtual gallery. I brought some postcards there talking about publicity. They're on the chair next to Claire. If you want to take a postcard about the current exhibition, they're there. The 2 studios are being and we aim to start a series of workshops, as I say, and classes for local artists and by local artists in that space in the coming year. Okay, next slide. These are the 2 things that we're seeking funding for at the moment. We're aware the problem of marketing at the Burton highlighted is not unique to them or to all the arts organisations in this region. It is a massive problem. There is no funding for marketing overall available from any source. We're negotiating with the Arts Council at the moment that we can do a massive marketing campaign on behalf of the 300 visualised in this, on the grounds that they are the third largest group of visualised in the UK. We think we will get that money, we don't know. That will allow this region to start having a national profile for the arts. And I'll come on to why that's important, because actually it's going to become incredibly important in my view over the next 2 to 3 years. The other thing is we're planning to do more of these social outreach workshops because we're aware that mental illness and social isolation in rural communities, Northern Devon, is a massive issue. Public transport, as Emma pointed out, is rubbish in terms of getting people access even to Torrington. And Torrington is actually reasonably well served with buses compared with other parts of Torridge. Whereas when we can do these workshops actually locally in places like Holsworthy and Black Torrington and so on, we can actually reach people who absolutely have no chance of getting into Bideford and wouldn't dream of coming to Bideford either because it's not, they're not leaving their little village, their hamlet or whatever. And so we're going to push forward with that, but we need the money, but we think we're going to get that. Funding is a big issue, and it's why I'm going to spend the last part of this talk is not about us, it's about where we sit and what this region could become going forward in a broader sense. You've had fantastic presentations this morning for a range of arts bodies and individuals. We could have filled this room with artists, clearly. We could have swamped this meeting with literally hundreds of presentations just to bring home to you the level at which this is an arts community. But it's an invisible one. I suspect most people around this table were absolutely unaware that you were sitting in the midst of the third largest group of visualised in the UK. And I don't blame you, that's not your fault. The artists don't promote themselves. They're artists. You know, these are people who shun away from being in the public light. They want to do their work, they want to sell it. That's their deal. They need people like us to actually get out here and make the case. They're not going to make it themselves. And I fully appreciate that. And I don't want to turn them into something that they're not. I've worked with creatives the whole of my adult life. I have another life away from here where I work in film and TV, and I've got a program starting up in Europe in a few weeks' time with animators from all over Europe. So for me, creatives are a certain type of person. They don't socialize particularly well. They're not particularly articulate, but they do fabulous work. And here we have a community that does nationally significant work, and it needs not only to be protected, and in terms of the organisations that we have here that do a fantastic job of supporting the local community and trying to make people aware of how important the arts is. But we collectively need to take on the challenge that now faces. So the next slide. I'm hoping every single one of you is aware of these 3 documents. They've been around now for a while. The Bideford Cultural Strategy, you all approved last year. Flourishing Cultures was approved a couple of years before that. And the Economic Strategy was again approved for North Devon and Torridge at the end of last year. Now, all of this is great paperwork. I don't believe in paperwork. I believe in doing things. There's a lot of ambition in those documents, but there's very little on the ground that actually is there to support the arts going forward. And that's the challenge I'm laying down today to everyone in this room. We need to think about how we're going to take this forward and how we're going to support it over the years to come. And we face some real challenges in doing that, as illustrated by the next slide. Devolution is coming down the track. No one asked for it, but it's coming. Northern Devon could seriously lose out in the devolution debate, as everyone in this room is fully aware. So there is a big question of how does this region stand out over the next 2 to 3 years while this devolution rolls on and makes an impact that ensures that Northern Devon, and I include North Devon as well as Torridge in that statement, actually has an importance beyond what it does now. Because in my view, and it is my view, shared by many people, I have to say, that if we don't stand out, then the people here will lose out. And I'm really concerned that the people here don't lose out. I grew up in Devon. I had to leave at 18, like most of the young kids in Northern Devon. I came back to try and make a difference, and I'm determined to do that. Now, what you may not be aware of is the Creative Industries Vision. This was a document that was put out 2 or 3 years ago, and sets out the agenda for the whole of the UK on the creative industries. Now, just to put this in context, the creative industries is worth more to the British economy than aerospace, armaments, and tourism combined. The visual arts in that combined figure is worth £7 billion to the British economy. And that's an underestimate of its contribution, because it doesn't include the likes of the artists around here. Last December, Gus MacDonald, who used to run the civil service, if some of you may know him by name, some of you will not, was asked to draw up the value of culture and heritage to health and well-being, to actually put a monetary value on it. I mean, this is the age we live in. If you can't put monetary values on things, people tend not to take much notice. He came back and with this document in December to show from, this is from central government, it's not an independent thing, it's central government money, central government research, to show that in the areas that we are talking about here in North Devon, where we've got an elderly population, we've got a lot of serious illnesses raising up and will continue to raise up, and that actually spending money on the arts saves the National Health Service several £1 million a year. In our region, it would be significantly more if we did more of it. Art and hospitality. Hospitality, as you're all aware, is the major industry in this area. You know, the hotels, the bars, the restaurants, you know, it's where people spend their money. It's where the tourists give us their donations to our local economy. Art in Europe and in other parts of the UK is a major part of the hospitality sector, in particular in the hotels. But also, you'll notice if you go into any cafe around here, there's artwork on the walls. Any new cafe that opens, artists march in with their little portfolios of stuff and go, here, can you stick this on the wall for me? Can we sell a few things? I mean, that's a lot of work there. And what we need to be aware of is that there's real... Sorry.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I do apologise to everybody here, but I have to make my apologies because I have to crush all my appointments into one because of my critically injured identical twin sister who's in a hospital in Reading, and I've had to go up yesterday and I've got to go up tomorrow. So I do apologise. I apologise particularly that you will have to elect somebody to take over from Cheryl. And I'm so sorry about this. I would never behave in this rude way or do anything to offend you normally, but I'm afraid my identical twin is close and dear to me, and she is in a very, very severely critically injured state, and she needs me. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us the time at all. I mean, no, under the circumstances, I think that's amazing. Okay, so coming back to this is our collective future. We either now realise that thanks to devolution and other things, and all the cost of living impacts, the economy, etc., that's going on, Northern Devon as a whole, Torridge in particular, given that the Burton and the Plough are here, has the potential, as with the 300 artists and the New Atlantic Wave to make a noise. And it's that noise that we need to make. Yes, funding would be great, but to be honest, funding is going to have to come from outside the region because actually within the region there isn't enough cash. There just isn't, realistically. So the funding's got to come from outside the region. This means collectively as arts organisations and as councillors and as local human beings, we need to make noise. And we need to make noise, big noise over the next 2 years. Because these are the 2 years, while the devolution debate's going on, where if we make enough noise, national bodies will start giving us cash. I'm in touch with a fund at the moment that hands out 85 million quid a year. They have not given any money to Devon in the last decade. That gives you some idea of how we don't feature. And it's up to us to shout and to promote and to market and to be conscious of each other, because this is a collective need. This isn't, I can't call on 200 artists to go marching down Bideford Quay every weekend to go support the arts, because they're not going to do it, much as they might love to. But we can. We can support the arts. We can make our voices heard. And we can support these organisations and the 300 artists that we're in touch with and all the other creative people in this region. Because actually this is a creative region. I'm on a little group at the moment where we're trying to come up with a new branding for the area. And the branding name we've come up with so far is Creative by Nature. Because this is a natural environment, but it generates creative people. And I think you're proud of them. And I want you to be even more proud of them. So next slide. These are the artists' work that you saw as we went through this show. As you can see, most of them are women. 80% of the practicing artists in this region are women. And women have been underrepresented in the arts for centuries. So, yeah, we can make a big difference. Next slide. This is where you can find out more about us. There is an exhibition on at the Quay. Postcards are there at the moment. It opens every Wednesday to Sunday. Winter opening times 11 till 3. You can visit our website. That's the QR code for it. So when you get the slides, you can just bounce that off your phone. There's a newsletter. We put out 2 newsletters every month. One is to the general public and one is to our membership. I'm hoping that every single one of you will sign up for the general one. If any of you are practicing artists, I'd expect you to sign up for the membership and get that one. You can contact us via our general website, obviously, but there's mine and Hillary's are the founding directors of Art Makers. There's 2 other directors, Jess and Becky. And we sort of live in and around this area. You know, some in Torridge, some in North Devon. And we'd love to hear from you. But more than anything, we'd love to hear from you collectively. Because this is about our voice. It's about the creativity of the people in this region and recognising its national significance, not just its local significance. Now, I've rattled through that this morning because I'm aware that we've taken up a lot of time this morning, and I didn't want to sort of dwell on too many things, because I think the important statement I want to make is this: we need your support collectively. It's not about you finding a few £1,000s here and there. That helps. You know, buying bricks for the plough, contributing to the Burton's outreach programme. These are important things. They need to be done. But actually, we need you to stand up and shout on behalf of all of us. And all the invisible artists out there who you're never going to see because they're stuck at home doing what they like doing. Okay? Any questions?
Thank you. And I had to laugh when you said that because I spoke to quite a few people about coming and speaking in public contributions, and they were like, oh no.
Not doing that. Not doing that.
So you're really spot on there. So thank you to the artists who did come and speak to us earlier. Thank you for that presentation. Have we got any questions? I expect there are. Yeah, and thinking about how we make that voice that you were talking about. Sean.
I mean, a really good presentation. Thank you ever so much. It's really good to see everything that's been going on. And I think shouting about the importance of the arts and the creative industries, not just to the local economy, but to the health and well-being of our communities and cohesiveness of our communities is something that's picked up well. We've done so much work. I was reflecting, really. If you went back 10 years, 2014, a response to austerity would rip the heart out of everything to be able to afford to continue at that time. And slowly we're building back, and you see the importance and the references in all our strategic documents coming through now. And I think that's what you're talking about there, is we need to push the importance about this particular sector of the economy, these groups of people, these communities, and actually the value that they bring to this place as we move forward into bigger geographies of governance and other environments. So yeah, we can do that, and I think it's well recognised. It's just providing that evidence and continuing that support. We definitely, I think, as a council, you can be proud that you've made massive steps forward in the last 10 years.
We've got our cultural strategy, which is all part of raising that voice, and our cultural development officer, and the fact that we've got this meeting, bringing people together, but it's working out, like you say, in that devolution deal and the future of local government, how we make that highlighted.
Yeah, I think there is this space out there in the national agenda that could be grabbed by Northern Devon as a whole. And that's what we, as art makers, that's what we want to support. Besides all these lovely projects with other individuals that we do.
I was wondering about the communication you've had with members of Parliament across the area, whether that's...
I'm not going to talk about the MPs because that might this is being recorded. Let us say there is scope for improvement, and we are making moves to try and do that. But in my other hats before I came back to Northern Devon, I've worked with the Civil Service and I've worked with DCMS and the Arts Council at a national level, and there are people there that we talk to about, and that's why, I believe it's possible. These people will listen if you come with the right agenda and a solution. At the moment, people turn up with problems. Actually, frankly, I can turn up with problems. I can keep you completely entertained with problems for the next 3 hours. That's not the point. People always want solutions. And that's our job, collectively, to sort of say, this helps the local economy, it helps the local health organisations, it builds a more viable Northern Devon. And that's the solution. And arts, I think, is a huge part to play in that. But I've said all that already.
Completely agree. Councillor Harding.
Yeah, I mean, like I said just now, food for thought. Yeah, my ward is Hartland, Clovelly. We've got Wolseley, we've got some art smiths and people like that in around, and we've always had a big interest in it, and I dabble myself, and it's basically it's just nice to have that kind of chance to be immersed in it to kind of get you. And I had a bit of a mental health issue when after having lots of operations of that, and painting got me through it. Yeah. And so it's more than just sales things like that. It's good for well-being and that. But listening to you all with the Plough, with the Burton and that, I just think we need a reset, a rethink, possibly outside the box, a new centre, or I don't know, but it just gives us a chance now to have a good think about what needs to be done. And I think, you know, that's is a good meeting to have to kind of reset ourselves to start thinking about these things.
That would be cool.
I was just thinking there's been no mention about the heritage side of the arts and the Heritage Harbour, which was designated here in Bideford. But how that could work collaboratively with artists across the area to sort of promote that as well. Maybe that's something that can be taken away. And
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Gus MacDonald's report was about heritage and culture. It was that combined approach. Absolutely.
Councillor Hodson.
Thank you. Really interesting. We've all heard of the Newlyn School of Art, but I was totally unaware that we had so many artists actually in our area. One of the things we've heard from all the groups today is about, or the questions that they've been asked, is how they get their message out about what they do and what they're there for in our communities. And I think this sums it up, and I think we really must band together to actually market the potential and possibilities of bringing an identity to Northern Devon, North Devon and Torridge, as a place for creativity. And I think the only way we will achieve that is to work collaboratively and respond to the leadership that your group are actually bringing to the table. So thank you. Carry on the great work, please.
We'll try.
I think we've covered a huge amount, so I'd just like to thank everybody for their time and for coming and putting the presentations together and for all of the work that you're doing. It's really amazing, and I think we've got a really creative future ahead in the coming years. It's really exciting for Torridge, so thank you everybody. It's brilliant. We look forward to the future. Thank you. Yeah, the suggestion of a 5-minute break, comfort break, before we move on to active Torridge. But everyone, you're welcome to go. Thank you.